You okay, Andrew?
Yes, I'm fine. And yourself?
Yes, fine, thank you. Yes.
Did I spot Darren on telly last night?
Yes, you did. Yes. Yes, he's our superstar. If he keeps bringing the money in, he can keep going on telly.
Fair enough.
They all need a bit of investment.
We
Yes.
do, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So are we okay, Ben? Is everything technically okay? Fine.
Yes, we are live streaming.
Fine.
That's good.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's well and keeping safe, and things are looking much more promising with the vaccine and the roadmap. Let's see how things go. But I do have to say that the team, Melanie and her team, throughout this pandemic have been amazing. How they've kept everything going has been absolutely incredible. You know, I think we all feel we've been running two agendas, one looking after people, but one keeping the business going. And when we see these agendas packed full of investment, I think, Melanie, it's a credit to you and your team. And if you could pass that on to your team, how much we appreciate all the work that you do.
Thank you, Chair. I will do. I'll pass that back.
Yeah, and Jane's clapping there. Yeah. Okay. Right. Have we any apologies for absence?
I've received apologies from Roger Marsh and Councillor Groves.
Okay, fine. Thank you. And declaration of interest. And we can move the exclusion for press and public. And then the minutes of the meeting, the last meeting on the 3rd of February. Can we agree those? Fine, thank you. And then fine. And then we go on to item 5, the capital programme update.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we've got the position statement now in terms of our Q3 returns. So at this stage in the programme, which has taken us up to the end of December, we've spent approximately 48% of our spend against capital programme. That's not unusual. We always have a lot to do in the fourth quarter. Last year, I think our spend was about 42% at this point in the year. So there is still risk attached. There is still a lot of pressure, obviously, to deliver those programmes. But we are still focusing on completing the growth deal, which finishes at the end of this month. We are predicting full spend on the economic development side of that. On the transport fund side and the transport schemes of the growth deal, we're slightly underspending on that, but we have commitments where we're in contract on schemes, and basically with our commitments, we will have spent that next year as the programme runs on over a longer time frame. Just on the economic regen side, we've put some more detail in here this time around the housing outputs, because one of the things that we do with the growth deal is we front fund a lot of these schemes. We put our investment in up front, and then the housing outputs come much later on. So we wanted to give comfort to members that, you know, we are on track to deliver the outputs. In fact, we believe that we'll be exceeding those outputs, but they will come further down the line. So we've set out those schemes in the housing and regeneration programme that will deliver housing outputs. And we've also identified those transport schemes that are directly opening up housing development and land for development, which is great to see that growth as part of those transport schemes as well. So we've set that out in a bit more detail for members. We also have a LIPTIP programme, which is the Leeds Public Transport Investment Programme, that is also fully committed. And we've got the next item on the agenda where we'll give you a little bit more update in terms of that review. And just on the Getting Building Fund, this is the programme that the government had launched at very short notice last summer to ask if we had schemes that were shovel ready that they could invest in. And we had 15 schemes that were approved as part of this programme. And on this agenda, you will have seen up until this point, 13 out of the 15 schemes actually coming through for approval, and you'll see schemes starting in delivery. So we've got plenty of things coming through for you to consider. And also the new fund, the Brownfield Housing Fund, we have been asked by government to confirm the programme by June this year. So we're currently working with local authority partners, and we've undertaken a call for projects to ask for suitable projects to come forward to be considered for our programme. And the first one of those schemes is actually on the agenda today through that capital spend and approvals report. So that's where we're up to in terms of the schemes. And obviously we're focusing on finishing off Growth Deal, but also starting up those new programmes and continuing with our longer running ones like Transport Fund. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
I think we may have lost Denise.
Yes, she's
One of the councillors.
yes, she's having problems with her internet. She's asked if can Councillor McBride please take over the chair.
Yeah. Are you finished now, Melanie?
Yes, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any further questions?
I think Councillor Scullion has her hand up.
Thank you. I just wanted to endorse what Melanie said in relation to lots of things beginning to happen, and Beach Hill is on that list in terms of housing, and it's at 0 at the moment, but the diggers came in last week, so we are on site, and hopefully things start coming out of the ground very soon. And I think quite a lot of these things are there's a lot of time in terms of the design and planning, and I'm confident that they will come through in time.
Okay. Any further comments? Okay, can we accept that report? Melanie, would you like to take this further?
Yes, thank you. So the next one, Leeds Public Transport Programme. This is the LIPTIP review part 2. So the first part of the review you considered in January, and this is the second part. And Andy Norman is going to take us through this report. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, all. As Melanie said, this is the second part. The first part came to you in January. The part 1 report covered the bus infrastructure package and the programme management elements. And this part of the report deals with the 2 remaining packages, which is the bus delivery package and the rail package, both packages which are managed by the combined authority. The total expenditure or funding for the LIPTIP programme is 183.4 million. That's a contribution, that's a DFT grant of 173.5 million plus Leeds City Council and combined authority contributions. The 183.4 million of investment is being monitored through the combined authority's assurance process. So at decision point 2, we had a development grant of 15.31 million was approved by the combined authority. Part of this paper is to amend some of the decision point 2 allocations that we have there. There was a funding agreement entered into with Leeds City Council for 11.535 million for the development of the bus infrastructure package, and then the rail package had 1.95 million allocated, and the bus delivery package had 1.45 million allocated. The bus delivery and rail packages have now been reviewed and reflect changes that have occurred in the programme throughout its duration. That's been through a series of global finance meetings, and we had the 5th one of those yesterday. So there are some slight changes which I'll follow up after the meeting to Appendix 4. It's important to note that the changes proposed are all affordable within the overall LIPTIP funding, for which the combined authority is the accountable body. There are updates provided in the papers in Appendix 1 and 2 on the bus and rail packages. And I'll run through the proposed revisions out of the report. So the first one is a reprofiling of decision point 2, development cost approval. This is to ensure that development costs of schemes have sufficient approved budget to cover the costs. and that is set out in Appendix 4. The second area of change is the reprofiling of indicative costs, and this is to take account of changes that have happened across the lifetime of the LIPTIP programme, and some reductions and changes in the allocations to projects within the bus and rail packages. And the indicative allocations are, changes to those are shown in Appendix 4. The third area is a reallocation of funds into behavioural change package, which was covered in LIPTIP Part 1 review. This is a programme-wide behavioural change package to make them push out messages on the LIPTIP programme and to encourage the change in behaviour that we want to achieve with the LIPTIP programme. The fourth area is some changes to approval to allow funding for Leeds City Council on the rail package schemes. So work has been undertaken by Leeds City Council on some of those schemes, and we want to ensure that we have approval for that expenditure by Leeds City Council. So in summary, the recommendations that we have here are recommendation 1 is the reprofiled decision point 2 development costs, as set out in Appendix 4 are approved. The reprofiled and indicative allocations as set out in Appendix 4, Table 2 are approved. That the allocation of 50,000 from the bus delivery package for the delivery of the behavioural change campaign. The LCC costs for the rail package schemes as set out in Appendix 4 is approved, and that the Combined Authority issue addendums to the existing fund agreements with Leeds City Council for expenditure on the LCC the rail package schemes from the LIPTIP fund.
Thank you, Andrew. Any comments from colleagues? Questions? Melanie, any further comment?
No, not from me, Chair.
Okay, we accept that as accept that report. Can we move on to the next item?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the capital approvals report, as I mentioned earlier, we've got a number of schemes coming through from the Getting Building Fund this time round, and across a number of programmes. The first 3 that we have for consideration today are all Getting Building Fund, and Rob Tranmer is going to take us through those. We'll do them one at a time, but Rob's on for a triple act.
Morning, everybody. The first project, well, the Getting Building Fund will help create jobs and generate new activity that will support the West Yorkshire COVID-19 Economic Recovery Plan. And the first project I want to present is the Dewsbury Arcade. The arcade is a Grade 2 listed building and it's been vacant since 2016. It's in a very poor condition due to no maintenance being performed over the last 10 years. And the council have acquired the arcade with the intention of reopening the arcade in Dewsbury to enable small, local and independent businesses to occupy the space, which will create jobs within the creative sector. The scheme will refurbish 997 square metres of commercial floor space to support the creation of 15 new businesses and 13 indirect jobs. The scheme has a benefit cost ratio BCR of 4.8 to 1, representing very high value for money. Approval is sought to proceed through decision point 4, full business case, and work commence on activity 5, full business case with finalised costs. The total value of the scheme is 3.245 million, with a total combined authority funding of 0.6 million. The funding recommendation sought is 0.6 million. This will help the council to deliver the remedial works required prior to starting out on the final design phase for a second stage refurbishment scheme to bring the units back into use. And a decision by the investment committee using the delegated authority from the combined authorities sought as part of this report.
I'd like to comment on this. I mean, from a Kirklees point of view, this is extremely important. It's crucial for Dewsbury's regeneration. This is an iconic building. It's critical, it's central, and it's transformational. We've invested our money very largely behind it. We do believe, because of its position, it's a linkage between, as you go from Pioneer House, go along towards the market, this is a key linkage point, and central for anybody operating in the centre of Dewsbury. So without reservation, absolute support for this from Kirklees. Carry on. Sorry, I just interjected that from a Kirklees point of view. Can you carry on?
Can I just make a point, Chair? On this scheme, I just wanted to draw members' attention to the risks that are set out in paragraph 5.13. You may ask whether this is the right time to be investing in retail, given the trends on the high street in recent times. So we have looked at that as a risk and how that would be mitigated. And Kirklees Council are looking to do soft market testing to make sure that there is the demand there for the small units. They're pretty confident that that demand is out there, but we will test that and obviously we will mitigate against that risk. And with all of these schemes, we're trying to plan for the medium and longer term and not for the current situation that we find ourselves in with COVID and national lockdown. So I just thought it was worth bringing that to your attention.
It's a good point, Melanie. But I think there's some early evidence that this would be an attractive proposition. Certainly Kirklees is putting a lot of stress on this and it's giving it a big priority within the overall Dewsbury blueprint. So it's got support from Kirklees without any reservation. Carrying on, Melanie, do you want to?
Rob, if you could just confirm the recommendations on this one, please.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, the recommendation is to proceed through decision point 4, full business case, and work through and comment on activity 5, full business case with finalised costs.
I'll move that if I can. Yeah. Okay, Darren, thank you. Is that agreed? Supported? Thank you. Thank you. Next slide, Melanie, would you like to comment?
Yeah, so Rob, do you want to take us into the next one?
Yeah, the next game is the Brighouse A6025 reconstruction, and this game involves reinstating the 6025 Park Road closed following a landslip. And if I could ask, I believe Caroline Coy is in the meeting, who's the project manager for the Combined Authority.
Hi. Yes, hi Chair. I'll just present it. So yes, so this scheme involves obviously reinstating the A6025 Park Road, which has been closed following a landslip. The scheme's objective is to reopen the route and remove the need for existing traffic, which is taking a longer diversion between the key West Yorkshire growth areas of Elland and Brighouse Park Road. The scheme is expected to introduce a significant journey time saving for road users and to contribute to the reduced carbon emissions by alleviating congestion and improving the considerable delays as well that are currently experienced on the wider Calderdale Road network. The scheme is anticipated to promote social inclusion and equality by improving accessibility to public transport, and therefore it's also it involves employment and training opportunities for residents in Elland, Brighouse and Halifax. The scheme's value for money assessment reflects a benefit cost ratio, BCR, of a very high value for money of 85:1. And today the approval is sought to proceed through decision point 4, full business case, and work commences on activity 5, full business case with finalised costs. The total value of the scheme is 2.516 million. The total value of the combined authority funding is 1.8 million. Currently, today, we're not recommending any funding at this stage. That the actual decision that we're wanting today is that a decision is made by investment committee using the delegated authority from the combined authority to progress this scheme to activity 5 FBC plus with finalised costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank
Jane,
you.
would you like to comment?
I would, Chair. I think the benefit cost ratio of 85:1 says it all really in terms of the importance of this scheme to Calderdale and actually contribution in terms of carbon and reducing emissions, because there is a tremendously long detour to avoid this. Really, it is very, very important to Calderdale, and I hope the committee can support it.
Thanks, Jane. Any further comment? I think we can all support this. Anybody have any reservations? If not, we'll approve that. Melanie, further points?
The next one is the George Hotel, Huddersfield. Rob, do you want to introduce this one?
Yep, certainly. It's the Huddersfield George Hotel is the acquisition and remedial works to the hotel to prepare it for the next stage of development. The scheme will support the acquisition and the remedial works to make the building safe, watertight and ready for development. It's a grade 2-star listed building, and following refurbishment, there's an agreement that it will be the home for the National Museum for Rugby League, along with complementary commercial space. The Rugby League Museum will occupy the ground floor and basement of the scheme, and the upper floors will be converted for more commercial uses. So the scheme will create 4,375 square metres of commercial floor space. The council are currently undertaking options being considered for whether to deliver flexible grade A office space or overnight accommodation within the upper floors of the George Hotel, and they are in dialogue with the market to identify the best use. But they wish to remain flexible because this will depend on occupiers coming forward. The office space will deliver 148 net jobs, and the overnight accommodation will deliver 134 net jobs. There's a decision sought is the approval to proceed through decision point 4 full business case, and work commencing on activity 5 full business case with finalised costs, which will be for the next phase of the scheme to fully refurbish the building. The total value of the scheme is 9.27 million, and the total value of combined authority is 1.365 million. So the funding recommendation sought at this stage is for the 1.365 million to allow the council to carry out the remediation works to enable the next stage to continue. So a decision is required by the investment committee using the delegated authority from the combined authority.
Thank you, Rob. What I said about Dewsbury Arcade is even more true of this building relative to the Huddersfield regeneration. It's probably the most iconic building in the whole of Kirklees. It was bought because it has such a function. It is very significant for that whole area. It's just immediately outside the station. Station, I remind you, is the second most used station in West Yorkshire by a country mile. There's nothing even half as big as it within West Yorkshire outside Leeds. So it's that big, and we anticipate it being even more important because we learned from Network Road pretty likely that the main route east-west is going to be Transpennine, and we got more evidence of that earlier this week. So it's a crucially important building, which will become even more so as that route opens up. So without reservation, I can support this. Of course, it is there's an element of gamble in this, but I think it's thoughtful gamble. It relates to demand, not that will be immediately, but I think one could anticipate within 18 months or 2 years, and that's a reasonable anticipation. Melanie, would you like to comment further?
Just to add, Chair, that obviously it's a prominent location. It's adjacent to the station, and it's a key building right in the centre of the town. And it's an opportunity to bring that back into use. And obviously, having secured the National Rugby League Museum, it is great for the town to bring it back to Huddersfield.
I think the real issue is whether it's developed in part as a hotel. Traditionally, of course, it was a hotel. We'd like it to return to be that. But of course, what you want now is a very much smaller hotel, and we're looking for the market for such. I think it will be, but it'll be a very upmarket, bespoke market that will be attracted. But I think that's going to be in the next 18 months. It isn't there at the moment. I think there's clear evidence that there will be. So I have no reservation about supporting this. Other colleagues, any comments about this?
Can we move this one, Peter?
Yep. Thank you for your support. I will second it. Anybody else want to comment? If you agree it? Okay. Next item.
Yes, so the next one is part of the corridor improvement programme, and it's the Fink Hill scheme in Leeds. And James Bennett is going to take us through this one, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Chair and all. Thanks, Melanie. So I'm here today, as Melanie mentioned, to talk through the proposals for Fink Hill in Leeds. Fink Hill scheme is part of the Corridor Improvement Programme. The section of route is on the A6120 Outer Ring Road in Horsforth, northwest Leeds. If you wondered what the problems are on this section of route, it suffers from congestion and therefore variable journey times, and has suffered from accidents over the last few years. So what's the solution that's been proposed here? It's looking at remodelling the lanes and junctions through this section of route. It'll formalise that traffic at the moment does tend to queue in 2 lanes, even though it's only marked out for 1. So it'll address that issue by widening and formalising to 2 lanes. What that'll enable is that you can then put full pedestrian crossings on every arm of every junction. So it'll make it a lot safer and easier for pedestrians to cross. So overall, this scheme will cost, if approved today, £5.428 million. If you're wondering what the benefits are, so overall, Fink Hill will save 6,200 tonnes of carbon dioxide emissions over the 60-year life of the scheme. Also, as well, because it actually reduces idling time from congestion, the modelling has shown that it will decrease emissions overall, such as things such as PM 2.5s and NO2. So it'll reduce the bad emissions due to freer flowing traffic. There are benefits of bus and active modes. So for bus, the Leeds City Council has regularly received requests to try to improve orbital bus service journey times, so it'll address that. It'll mean it creates a dedicated bus lay-by, so it allows traffic flow to be easier and reduce congestion, and it'll improve bus reliability times because of that. The modelling has shown a reduction in bus journey times throughout the morning into peak and afternoon peak. For active modes, the scheme will deliver a dedicated segregated cycle lane on the north and south side of the section of route. It'll also introduce, as I mentioned, full dedicated pedestrian crossing facilities on all arms of the Fink Hill junction, which aren't presently there. At the adjacent Horsforth roundabout, when they signalised that actually reduced accidents in the compared to the previous 3-year period from 14 to just 1 at that junction. So putting dedicated signalised crossing facilities does have a massive safety benefit. So overall, because of all those benefits, the BCR has come in at 2.85 to 1, which by the DFT's criteria is judged as high value for money. So the scheme, if approved today at this stage, construction would start later this year in October. It'd be complete by autumn next year. So today, we don't actually need any additional new funding agreed today, because it's just would move on to the FBC stage, which is obtaining procurement. So we don't need any new money today. So what the recommendation and approval being sought is that the Fink Hill scheme proceeds through this decision point for FBC, and work commences on activity 5, which is the FBC plus, to obtain costs. And overall, an indicative approval for the total scheme value of £5.428 million is approved, with full approval being granted once the scheme has passed through the next decision point. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, James. The recommendation is to proceed. Is that seconded? Thanks, Darren. Any comments? Okay. Can we move that? It's all agreed? Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item.
Yeah, so the next one, Chair, is the York Central and York Station Gateway scheme. And members may recall that this was considered by the Investment Committee in March 2019, where there was a full business case for consideration. That was approved subject to conditions, and we wanted to outline to you how those conditions have now been discharged, and also look at splitting out the York Central scheme and the Station Gateway scheme, because they're moving at slightly different timeframes. So I'd like to introduce Caroline Farnham-Crossland, who is going to just take us through a little bit more of that detail.
Thanks, Melanie.
and I don't think Caroline is on the call just yet. Right, okay. Let me just pick up on the headlines. So basically, when we approved this at full business case, the last time it came to the investment committee, there were 4 conditions that were attached to the approval. And we're in a position now to demonstrate that those have been discharged. So we were waiting for approval from the Housing Infrastructure Fund, and that was 77 million investment for the scheme. That approval has come through. We were waiting for full planning permission for the York Station works and the reserve matters for York Central. That has also been approved. We had further questions around the quantified risk and the procurement strategy, and we were looking for a detailed programme plan, which has now been submitted and approved by the York Central Project Delivery Board, and we've also had sight of that, obviously, and had a look at that. And then one other thing that's worth flagging was that on the economic case, because this project is being funded through the Transport Fund, and the funding is coming through DFT, we have to make sure that the appraisal is compliant with the government guidance, with the TAG assessment process. So we have looked at that. And the thing is, this scheme is much wider than a transport scheme. Yes, it is about the access, but it's about the regeneration of a significant site in the centre of York, in the city centre. And basically, the strategic case for that redevelopment is very strong. But when we just look at TAG and we look at that in isolation, then the BCR that comes out from this scheme is poor. But what the government is telling us as they have reviewed the Green Book is that that is just one of a number of cases that we consider. So we want to share with you that the economic case on a purely TAG basis is not high. However, there is a strong strategic case for the scheme. We can see the wider benefits of developing that area. There are new housing units, new commercial floor space, new jobs that will be brought to the area. So we definitely recognise the wider benefits that this will bring. And we are recommending that we acknowledge that the conditions have been met, that we discharge those conditions, and that work continues on the full business case with the finalised costs. We're also asking that we split out the York Central and the York Station Gateway elements, and that we proceed with those at slightly different timescales, but obviously they will all come through for those final approvals. Happy to take any questions, and it may be that Caroline has been able to now join us on the call. But happy to take.
Sorry, apologies everyone. I was told not to come on until I was called, so I was just sat waiting for the call. So I'm really sorry.
Sorry, I've gone through it, Caroline. Is there anything that I've missed there?
I don't think so. We talked about. I mean, you talked about the additional cost, didn't you? The fact that we need to discharge the conditions, and that's been reviewed by our PMA team to say that those have all been met now. So we've got that assurance that those conditions have been discharged. And yeah, just to split out the projects into the 3 distinct phases of removing Askham Bar, Park and Ride. So yeah, I think you covered it. Thank you, Melanie, and apologies for that.
No problem.
Thanks, Melanie. Thank you, Caroline. We've got that explained to us. Are we clear? Can we accept the recommendations proposed?
Chair,
Yeah. Question from Councillor Waller.
Yes, if I can very strongly support those principles. The area is 2/3 the size of the city within the walls, so that shows the huge potential for sustainable development, very close to the station. It's an ideal location. And we've progressed the planning process, which that has been done in great detail. There's a lot of interest in this, but I think it is important that the gateway to the station, the the approach to the station is separate, because it will be done at a different time. It's rather complicated to remove a railway bridge that no longer carries a railway right next to the city walls, but when that has gone, it will create a huge amount of space for active travel, as well as being a more welcoming place for people to utilize the station. But the 6,000 plus jobs that will come, and it is important that we're able to plan for high quality office space to ensure that we retain our rail employment within the city. It's a vital aspect there. So I would concur with everything that Melanie has said about the project.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for that further explanation, Melanie. Having had that, are we agreed that we can take this forward? Agreed? Thank you. Let's move on. Next item.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. The next one is the Points Cross scheme, Hunslet Road in Leeds. This is the first of our Brownfield Housing Fund schemes that is coming forward for consideration. And this is being led by the Guinness Partnership. And we've invited Nigel Graham to say a few words and give us a bit of background to the scheme. And we also have Nicholas, who is going to then come in and just highlight the risks and the issues and then the recommendations for the scheme. So I'm going to hand over to Nigel. Welcome. And do you want to give us some of the highlights of this exciting scheme?
Thanks for inviting me all. I'm normally a Teamster, not a Zoomer. So Ben, will you be able to share your slides with the participants?
Okay.
Fingers crossed. Has that now come up on your screens? Right.
Yes.
Sorry, can you go back a slide, Ben, please? Just just the first point, for those who don't know about ourselves, a housing association. So Guinness have been around for 135 years. We own 65,000 homes. We're a not-for-profit organisation developing homes for those who cannot rent or buy in the open market. Next slide, please, Ben. So yeah, Points Cross is a 100% affordable project for local people at social rent or shared ownership. It meets the aspirations of the Combined Authority and Leeds City Council to accelerate the placemaking regeneration of South Bank with sustainable, high quality, affordable and low carbon homes, and bringing employment, training and learning opportunities. We're shovel ready. So we've got a cleared brownfield site in our ownership. We've got planning approval and ready to appoint a contractor. So we're looking for your support to help us meet the viability gap. And Guinness Board have committed to match fund your subsidy to deliver a viable scheme by spring 2023. Next slide, please, Ben. So here we are in the circle. That's us. We're at Hunslet Road, bounded by the Leeds College of Building, University Technical College and Ruth Gorse Academy. Immediately to the east is Situ, which is the Climate Innovation District. To the north is Leeds Dock and the Armouries, if you're aware of the area. We've got connectivity into the city centre by the new air park, which is where the old Tetley Brewery used to be. We're engaged at the moment with the school and the College of Building. So in addition to the direct employment, we're going to bring in apprenticeships. We're going to contract to build an on-site learning hub. Next slide, please. So phase one, which is the red line, it's mixed use of 311 1, 2 and 3 bed homes and ground floor commercial space. So we're working up, in terms of next stages, we're working up the application, the detailed application for phase 2, which is the blue area, and phase 3, which is the green area. So while not for these later phases, your funding will also de-risk and accelerate bringing forward delivery of these additional homes. So in total, there will be 928 across the site. Next slide, please. So the design quality is exceptional. It was a winner at the 2019 National Housing Design Awards. It's also safe, so incorporating emerging compliance standards, so to exceed current regulations. As you can see, it's a tall building, so post Grenfell, there's a lot of emerging compliance and regulatory requirements that we're going to meet, and need in advance of those, so we including those additional features. Next slide, please. And it's also low carbon and water saving. So it's lean, clean and green with active and passive design measures. A predicted SAP of B, which is a 22% improvement to building regulations. And the headline figure, it will reduce carbon emissions by 100,000 kilograms of CO2 per year by the introduction of these measures. And later phases are being considered for connection into the district heating system, which is to come between our building and Leeds dock. And next slide. And it's literally green as well, with blocks arranged around high quality public realm, accessible to all, increased biodiversity and connectivity through the area provides cleaner transport, walking, cycling routes. So that was just a quick overview of the scheme. I don't know if you want to go back to any slides where you want further clarification. Otherwise, I'll hand you over to Nicholas and then take your questions later.
Yeah. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, as Nigel said, this scheme will contribute to the CEF priorities whilst bringing Brownfield land back into use, delivering 311 new homes, all 100% affordable homes, 118 available for social rent with Leeds Council, and 193 available for shared ownership within one of the most deprived wards in Leeds, therefore tackling equality. In addition, as Nigel said, the improved energy efficient credentials and improved design will enable 100 tonnes of carbon saving per year compared to a standard bill. The scheme does support creation of jobs in new commercial space through the construction period. And as Nigel has said, they're working closely with Leeds College Building. The scheme provides good, affordable residential development close to the city, which is vital to support residents accessing employment within easy access of the city centre. By the combined authority investing in this project for the delivery of the homes, it will then accelerate the delivery of future phases by 5 years. The scheme is supported by Leeds City Council and funding from Homes England. The scheme cost is 75 million with grant funding of 2.75 million from the Brownfield Housing Fund. Homes England are contributing 15 million from the Affordable Homes Programme. And the recommendation I'm seeking for the investment committee today is that the combined authority enters into the funding agreement with the Guinness Partnership for the grant funding of 2.75 million from the Brownfield Fund, subject to overdue diligence being completed prior to signing the agreement. Has anyone got any questions?
Are there any questions? It seems this scheme ticks all the boxes from an environmental and economic point of view. The right number of the right type, exactly what we would want. That's how it seems prima facie. Any further comments about this? I would think we would all be supportive of it. Is that seconded, colleagues?
Yeah, a great scheme, yeah.
Thank you, Denise. And
yeah, very welcome scheme, yeah.
So we support this, and I will hand over after this item, Denise, back to you. So are we agreed on this? Agreed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Denise, the ball's in your court.
Yeah, thanks very much, Peter, for that. I'm sorry, everybody. The internet just was coming and going. I didn't think it was very good to be doing that, but let's hope it holds out for the rest of the meeting. So thank you, Nigel, and both of you for your presentation, and we think it's a great scheme.
Thank you. Bye.
Fine.
Any further questions? No.
Okay. I don't think there is, Nigel. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Okay, the next one then is the Temple Green Park and Ride.
Yeah, and Rob is going to take us through this one. This is also part of the Getting Building Fund.
Okay, Rob, whenever you're ready.
Hi, yeah, I'll just introduce it and then I'll hand over to our colleague Andrew Norman, the Programme Manager for the highway schemes. So the Temple Green Park and Ride extension will upgrade the existing scheme through the addition of up to 391 additional car parking spaces. So perhaps if I could just introduce Andrew Norman.
Yep, hi Andrew.
Hi there, thank you, Chair. So this is Temple Green Park and Ride extension. As Rob said, it will provide an additional 391 parking spaces. Alongside the increasing parking capacity, the proposed scheme involves the operation of an additional bus service during the peak periods to accommodate demand following the site's expansion. As a result, an enhancement in bus frequency from 10 minutes currently to 8.5 minutes post-scheme delivery is anticipated during the peak periods of the day. The scheme is anticipated to promote social inclusion by improving accessibility to jobs and training, opportunities via public transport for all social groups by linking the city centre to the Aire Valley. The scheme's value for money assessment reflects a benefit cost ratio of 4.08 to 1, which represents very high value for money. So today approval is sought to proceed through decision point 5 for business case plus finalised costs and for work to commence on delivering the scheme. The total scheme value of the scheme is 7.83 million. The total value of the combined authority funding from Getting Building Fund is 7.4 million. And a decision by the investment committee using the delegated authority from the combined authority is sought as part of the report.
Okay, thanks very much, Andrew. Helen, do you want to comment on those?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. It was actually my maiden speech was on Temple Green, so I've got it's really in my heart, and it's kind of like over the road from my ward, so it's on the border of my ward, and I just think it's really excellent. People coming from York and from Castleford, all those areas with the M62 and the M1. You know, can park there and then very quickly get into Leeds. So I'm really supportive of it, and as I know that my colleagues are. So we're thanks very much for considering this investment. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. Any comments? Melanie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I could just make a point about this being a medium and longer term investment, we are often asked, because of COVID, the reduction in the numbers of people using a park and ride facility and obviously national lockdown, why we would want to invest in something like this at this time. And obviously we're planning for the medium to longer term when things do start to get back to normal and we do get past the pandemic and the economy is reopening again. We absolutely do not want people to be driving their cars into the centre of Leeds. And it's an important tool to be able to offer that extended park and ride facility. So we have stress tested this. We are looking at the medium term and we're not looking at, the current levels during a lockdown. So I just wanted to make that point that this is about that future investment.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make, and it will help with the climate change agenda. I think it's a really good scheme. Anybody else want to comment?
Sorry, can I just come back
Yes,
there and just support Melanie on that? Yeah, it's a really valid point, because also the growing economic opportunities in what we call Cross Green and the Aire Valley. There's a lot of businesses there, and for people to access it properly, and those kind of like social equality of being able to access it by bus or by car, I think is really important, as well as the climate change of keeping and the air quality issues of keeping cars out of Leeds city centre. So yeah, thank you, Melanie.
Thanks, Helen. Okay, if there's no more comments, can we agree this scheme? Okay, thank you very much. The next one is the Digital Skills Programme. Who's taking us through this?
Michelle Hunter is going to take us through this one, Chair.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Hi. So the Digital Skills Bootcamp Programme will support the economic recovery of businesses and individuals across Yorkshire and Humber by developing and delivering employer-led training initiatives and courses. The programme will link directly to local digital skills needs and build on a £1.3 million Department for Education funded pilot, which the Combined Authority is currently delivering. As one of only 8 pilot areas in the country, the Combined Authority is leading a joint bid for Yorkshire and Humber for funds up to £9 million from DFE, bringing the total programme cost to £10.3 million. The programme will upskill and retrain adults looking to progress in their career or current role or enter digital and technical careers, and will consist of interventions lasting between 8 to 16 weeks. Individuals will gain specific technical and employability skills to enable them to enter the digital sector. The programme supports the strategic economic framework priorities of boosting productivity and enabling inclusive growth, and will complement the Combined Authority's existing Reboot programme and align to the provision delivered through the adult training and employment hub programmes that have recently been approved through gain share funding. Over a 12-month period, the programme will work with 2,000 people across Yorkshire and Humber. 1,000 of those people will be from West Yorkshire. The programme will also support individuals from disadvantaged or marginalised groups, such as BAME, women, underemployed graduates, or those unemployed due to COVID-19. The total cost of the scheme is £10.3 million over 12 months. 100% of this funding will come from DFE. The training will be procured using a procurement framework. The decision from the Investment Committee is for retrospective approval of £1.3 million for the pilot and approval to spend up to £9 million to continue with the digital boot camps, subject to DFE approval of a successful bid, bringing the total project value to £10.3 million.
Okay, thank you for that. Any comments? Okay, I'm sure we're all supportive of this. Peter, do you want to come in?
No, I'm just entirely supportive. Yes, it's excellent.
Yeah, great. Okay, fine. Thanks very much, Michelle.
Great, thank you.
Okay, if we can agree that. And then the next one is the Element C Leeds City Region one. Melanie, who's doing that?
Yes, this is the UTMC scheme. Caroline is going to take us through this one.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
Yeah,
Caroline.
hi. So the UTMC programme, I'm sure you're all aware, but I'll just recap on it. It aims to create a single West Yorkshire urban traffic management control system covering all 1,600 signals, VMS, on-street CCTV, fault and air quality monitoring. The programme consists of 3 sub-projects. Element A, which is the on-street junction upgrades and improvements across the key route network, and that is in progress. Element B, which is the integration of the urban traffic control systems across the 5 districts into one cloud-based system, and again, that is in progress. And then Element C, which is the integration of 4 existing UTC teams into one team hosted by Leeds City Council, subject to all districts signing up to a partnership agreement. So the change request relates directly to Element C. The scheme is funded from West Yorkshire Plus Transport Fund, and the outputs of the scheme are really good. They're to facilitate economic growth and employment within West Yorkshire by improving management of the key route network, to better manage highways congestion on the key route network, to implement key route network within West Yorkshire irrespective of boundaries and agencies, to deliver more reliable highway network along selected KRN routes and support road users in West Yorkshire with greater information provision to inform travel choices. It also will reduce the adverse impacts of transport on local air quality in West Yorkshire. So it's a real benefit to having the UTMC programme. This change request, as I mentioned, is around Element C, which was originally to integrate the 4 existing UTC teams into one UTC team that would be in a physical building. But instead of that physical building approach now, which was the original scope, we're proposing that a virtual team with a central hub is proposed. The revised scope will continue to support the aspirations of a combined service, which will be detailed in a memorandum of understanding rather than that original partnership agreement. And the virtual team and central hub will provide improved day-to-day management and coordination across the UTC network. So we're not actually losing any of the benefits of changing this scope. So we will continue to operate at a district level from a functional perspective rather than transferring to Leeds City Council as the host of the combined service. But Leeds City Council will continue to provide Calderdale's UTC service, which is the current arrangements. And there will be a control centre, and this will act as a central hub for the virtual service. So network coverage from the central hub would initially be limited to Leeds and Calderdale, but it is proposed that central hub will be expanded to accommodate more local authorities in the future. The location of this control centre will be in the Civic Centre in Leeds, rather than what was going to be originally the joint service in Morley. But just to kind of emphasise the importance of this virtual hub that we are going to do, it's still going to, we're still going to do the development of a training space, which is based on attracting new staff and providing training to young engineers. So we're kind of future proofing that in terms of the engineering apprentices that are coming through and providing training and development for them. So the scope of this project is obviously reduced because there's more costs associated with the physical building than there is a virtual service. So we are looking to reduce the funding approval from 1.2 million to 0.55 million from the West Yorkshire Transport Fund. We also want to omit the condition that was previously set around the partnership agreement, because we are going to replace that with a memorandum of understanding. So we would like approval today for a decision by yourselves using delegated authority from the combined authority, and on those that cost reduction, and on the memorandum of understanding being replacing the original arrangements, please.
Thank you for that, Caroline. Peter.
Obviously, the arrangement, I think, is sensible. I'd like to stress a point that the previous speaker was making. Investment in this probably is better than any scheme that we have in the West Yorkshire Transport Fund, because I remember having this discussion 10 years ago, realising the benefits in terms of carbon and saving and traffic movements are massively enhanced by developments of this kind, and we tend to associate these improvements by virtue of road schemes, but by intelligent traffic lights, we can achieve the same objectives. And we, therefore, because they're not so evident, we tend to underplay their significance. I cannot say more than just to be absolutely supportive over UTC.
Thank you. Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. It was just a question. I appreciate that we're not covered by the area, but in terms of sharing best practice, and it being an issue where York is more in common with you than it is with the rurality of North Yorkshire, that there's the principle of us working together on this, because I think it's something that there is a great similarity in our geographies.
Yeah, we do have a UTMC on regular on the agenda of the Chief Highways Officers meeting, so we get updates pretty much monthly on the UTMC and sharing kind of what's happening and what we're proposing there. So yeah, I'll just make sure that we do a lessons learned and tie in even more with yourselves.
That would be useful, Caroline. Thank you. Any more comments on can we agree this? Fine, thank you very much. And then the next item is the City Connect.
Yeah, so City Connect Phase 1 and 2, this is the monitoring and evaluation proposals, and Rob Griffiths is going to take us through this one.
Right. Hi, Rob.
Hi, thank you, Chair. So the City Connect programme is a combined authorities primary delivery programme promoting high quality strategic cycle and walking network to encourage more people to cycle and walk, and making it the natural choice, especially for short journeys. So the City Connect programme was developed in 2013 in response to the strong desire for greater participation in cycling across the region. The programme is split into 3 delivery phases that are normally split by funding streams and delivery timescales, and this change request relates to phases 1 and 2 of the programme. So City Connect Phase 1 and parts of Phase 2 predate the current assurance framework, and when the City Connect programme was developed in 2013, it was a first of a kind programme and developed on information and assumptions at the time, especially with regards to the ongoing requirements for monitoring and evaluation. The programme committed to a schedule of monitoring and evaluation activity, including periodic user surveys and 5 and 7 year post-completion surveys to demonstrate the benefits realised. Now the requirements have been able to be fully defined for phases 1 and 2 of the programme, so it can be closed out with effective monitoring and evaluation taking place in the longer term in line with the commitments made to the Department for Transport. The programme team have undertaken a review of the programme and has concluded that there is a funding gap of £346,127 in relation to the ongoing monitoring and evaluation requirements and internal combined authority costs for phases 1 and 2, taking us up to 2027. Funding has been identified from the LTP Integrated Transport Block, and approval of this change request will enable full monitoring and evaluation to take place, which will mean the full benefits of the programme will be learned and shared to feed into future similar investment schemes to support their effective delivery. As such, the recommendation to the Investment Committee is that it approves the change request to the City Connect Phase 1 and 2 programme to fund £346,127 of monitoring and evaluation work and associated combined authority costs for phases 1 and 2 of the programme, taking us between up to 2027, and this funding is from the LTP Integrated Transport Block.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Any comments from anyone? We all happy to approve this? Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Then the next item is door-to-door transport.
Sorry, there's another one before that, Chair. It's business growth programme.
Oh yes, sorry. Yeah.
So it's part of the Getting Building Fund, and it's an extension to our current business growth programme. And Henry Rigg is going to take us through this one, Chair.
Right. Okay. Fine. Hi, Henry.
Hi there. Thank you, Chair. Yeah. So as Melanie says, this is an extension to an established business support programme, which has been running since 2013, has created over 3,600 jobs across the city region. The extension here is to do that for another year with an allocation from the combined authorities Getting Building Fund allocation of 7 million. That will help to create and safeguard 1,000 jobs in 21-22. It will focus on supporting businesses that are making investments in new technology and equipment, which will help with recovery, resilience and growth. It will lever in significant private sector investment of £42 million and support a minimum of 175 businesses in West Yorkshire. The GVA contribution we anticipate to be in the region of £44 million to the West Yorkshire economy. So the total cost of the programme is 37 million. As I mentioned, £7 million of that is for the grant funding to come from the GBF allocation of the CA. And the request is that the committee approves for this to progress delivery from April via the route of a change request to the existing programme.
Okay, thanks for that, Henry. Any comments? We're all happy with this. Thanks very much. Yep, that's fine. We agree with that.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, the next one is the door-to-door community transport service digital hub.
It is Helen Ellerton is going to take us through this one, Chair.
Okay, hi Helen.
Hello, thank you. Hi, thank you, Melanie. So the door-to-door digital hub is a not-for-profit service that assigns people to a suitable, safe and affordable transport. For example, signposting to access bus or enabling booking with a community transport provider. The scheme essentially has been designed to address mainly challenges faced by older people or people living with disabilities who need to book onto transport within their local area. The scheme basically will kind of set up and operate as a live pilot in the south of Leeds initially. And this is using spare capacity in the community transport system, so making effective use of resources available. If the pilot is successful and further funding can be sought, then this will be scaled up to be citywide across Leeds. So the scheme is funded by the Leeds Public Transport Investment Programme to date, and but yeah, if further funding would be sought from elsewhere, then that will be scaled up across the rest of Leeds. The total cost to the CA through this programme has been 789,000, and this includes the 450,000 which is being sought at this decision point. So the decision required is for the approval of this funding.
Okay, thanks for that. Everybody happy with that? Okay, nodding, we agree with that, thank you. And the next, sorry, yeah, I thought someone said to me. Yeah, the next one is the Castleford Growth Corridor.
Yeah, so just on this section, Chair, these schemes have had a delegation to officers to progress them. So it's just for noting for members, and obviously we share that with you each time. So since you last met, this one has been delegated to us in terms of a change request. So there was an additional ask for funding, which was factored into the Transport Fund review. So we did know that this request was coming, and it's in line with that. And then the next section, we also have some formal project closures that have come through to officers, and we've just formally closed those projects down. And you can see that the ones that have been considered in paragraph 4.22.
And thanks for that, Millie. Everybody happy with these schemes? Fine. Yep. Okay. Peter?
No.
You're all right?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay. That's the end of that item then. There's nothing else on there. So we go on to the carbon impact assessment.
Yes, Patrick Bowes is going to take us through this report, Chair.
Thank you.
Morning, everybody. Yes, so I'll just take you through the report. So the report is an update to the investment committee on the progress that we've been making in the carbon impact assessment work, developing a methodology to apply to our future business case decision making. To note that this item was last discussed by the investment committee on the 5th of November, and we also took an item to this to the combined authority on the 10th of December, at which the combined authority noted the progress that was being made. Very briefly, just to remind committee members, the project is divided into 5 phases. Phase 1, look at review of best practice. Phase 2, development of the toolkit. With phase 3, an assessment of the projects that are currently progressing through the assurance framework, and then further stages of the project around mitigation and training and development. The project is now partway through the assessment of existing projects. That's the start of phase 3. Although no results are currently available, initial testing on a subset of projects is being undertaken to apply the methodology to a small subset of projects. Since the project was last considered by the investment committee on the 5th of November, the consultants have made detailed recommendations for how our approach to carbon should be developed within our assurance process. This includes recommendations around the qualitative assessment of carbon impact early in the development of project schemes, a quantitative assessment of both carbon and of transport and non-transport projects at outline and full business case stages. The quantitative assessment should include emissions that are associated with the construction, as well as those emissions associated with use, reflecting on any issues around behavioural change in response to any investments that we make. And also recommendations from the consultants that the assessment of carbon impact should make background assumptions which are consistent with the carbon emissions reduction pathway. This would mean an additional sensitivity test would be introduced into future economic assessments that would be applied and use the emissions reduction pathway assumptions. It's fair to say that the methodology will develop and iterate as we test the current outline methodology on an initial subset of projects. Also worth noting that extensive discussions have already been undertaken with officers from partner councils These have included presentations to directors of development, chief highway officers, and workshops with a wide range of officers in a number of the local authorities. We've also undertaken detailed briefings with elected members and portfolio leads, which have just recently been completed. In terms of next steps on the projects, the focus from the project team is around completing the assessment of the existing projects. It's phase 3. We're going to then also move into phase 4 of the project, where we're looking at a subset of projects in more detail, working closely with existing sponsors and local authorities to look at the design and any mitigation issues around the adaptation of these projects. We will continue to work on implementing the proposals from this project into the ongoing review of the assurance framework, particularly around the revision of guidance and templates for our business cases. And they're an important part of the project also as well is developing training materials to support officers and elected members. And that work strand will start in June and July. So hopefully that gives the committee an update on progress in the project. And if I could hand back to the chair, please, and happy to take questions.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Patrick. Any questions? Okay, are we all happy to agree this? Thumbs up, yeah, okay. Thanks very much, Patrick. Yeah, that's fine, we agree that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, that brings us to the end of the meeting, and thanks, Peter, for taking over. I'm sorry about the connection. Great to see everybody. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you soon. And welcome, Helen, to our committee. We're very pleased that Leeds are going to be represented. So that's really good. Yeah. Okay, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Chair.
Bye.
Thanks, Chair.
Chair.